You need some more? You didn't bring me Dramamine.
Any what?
Dramamine. I'll let you. I didn't even get the off this shit. Alright, chill out. Where's your brother? Paper. Paper. You stand on one side. Y'all each stand on one side. Alright, don't turn around, look at me. Hey, shh. Put the wing down. Put the wing down. Alright, look right here. 1, 2, 3.
Oh.
You got Dramamine? I was gonna say, I don't know about my Dramamine.
Send me one of those big instrument.
Did you get me something to eat and drink? No, because, yeah.
When you go to the bathroom, you can see it.
Trong này người ta đa số donation không à. Vô donation này kia.
Mẹ coi. Không biết đâu, mẹ cứ đi vô mẹ thấy đâu có ai hỏi, tưởng đâu là vô cái nó để cái đằng kia kìa, center entrance. Mẹ nói chắc chỗ này là
vô trong. Hay là 3,5 tính tới nữa.
the two salmons, again representing the clans, as well as that that's a woodworm up top facing down in kind of that raven's grasp there. So another raven up top, because that was what the moiety, of course, of the Kiksadi was. Raven moiety.
So on the flip side, what was the U.S.'s, like, what did they see? What did Mr. Seward, what did he, like,
What did he see? Why
Yeah,
did
like
he
what-
think
yeah.
it was worth it? A few reasons.
They weren't at odds with Russia at that time. Sorry.
Yeah, a few reasons. One of them was he saw potential, you know, kind of, if we own this land, maybe we could go to other land next to it. So for expansion reasons, that was kind of it. It was mainly expansion reasons.
And it wasn't for any issues with Canada at the time.
It was a little bit with issues with Canada. They did kind of want to take over a little more of that land, like expansion reasons, you know, kind of move in, hey, we own this, we know you own this, let's divvy it up kind of a deal. Yeah.
Phải không? Đẹp.
Rồi bên trên kia nó giống như là Grand Teton đó mà, giống như ở Wyoming á. Nó có mấy con bow eagle này bay đẹp chưa nè. Đâu có cần phải đi coi đâu nữa, quá trời nhiều nữa.
Đẹp quá.
Up in the sky đó. Bald eagle. Nó bay đầy trên đầu.
Hồi sáng coi nhìn thấy coi mấy cô hay hả?
Nam ha.
Thấy hay.
Lần đầu tiên xuống. Hay quá. Pioneer Alaska Park nè. Nhiều bạc lắm. Nhưng mà ở đây có vẻ đắt đỏ. Đi cô cái cũng được.
Nếu mà nó không có lạnh ở đây sướng.
Yeah.
So form line is a very strict and specific way of doing art. It's not just doing art for art's sake, but there's meaning behind it. As you can see, the same colors, red and black, all over it. This was made in 1998. This is a shield, also known as a tanab. It's made out of copper, and typically you'll see people either have these as a necklace, a smaller one that they wear, or you'll see sometimes people dance with these at totem pole raising, celebration. And it's a sign of prosperity and wealth. The first one that you make, you have to give away to somebody. Does anybody know what this is?
Like,
You always get that. This is a halibut hook.
but
I wish I could say it's a slingshot. So this can carry up to 70 to 80 pound halibut. It can only catch halibut. Halibut are bottom-tier fish. They're also really delicious. If you'd ever like to have some halibut, right over at the cookhouse. Great halibut fish. Welcome. Everybody, I would hope, knows what this is.
yeah.
This is coastal ground bear skull. So the island that you're seeing on right now is Ketchikan Island. There's more bears than people. 2 to 3 bears per every person. They're definitely present on this island. I hear them a lot. I'm trying to get in my trash, but I have a lock on my trash so they can't get in. This guy is quite the mischievous terror.
You go to town, you ask the locals about the bear, they'll know. They'll know who you're talking about. This guy. You're going to tell them about this guy.
I just know what he was.
Oh, I'll tell you about it. So he's not nice whatsoever. Some bears are just like it. He was just killed 4 dogs, attacked at least 6 people in broad daylight. He was just not nice at all. I know I said that a lot, but he was not. So the local police he had no reason to attack the way he was attacking. We don't just kill bears for fun, if that's against all of our moral code here. But we do it when they are just terrorizing them. We got into multiple trash cans, did a lot of mean stuff. But every part of his body was utilized. The meat was produced in the town. Bear meat isn't the best, but we're still going to eat it if we take it. And I'm going to show you an example of us utilizing every part of the body. What do you guys think this is?
The stomach.
I'll give you that. It's not a stomach. Getting really close though. It's a bladder.
Oh,
Can you guys guess what it is? Sea animal here in Newton.
sea lion.
Sea lion. So this can be used as a water bottle
Oh,
or as a buoy.
wow.
That's what the Clinton people used it for. It was against all of the rules and the
Cái
red lights
vô
not to
mẹ
take
đều bột
every
đáy,
piece they took.
còn còn
They
sea
used
sea lion.
blisters for their hats. They used every part. It's just an example. Since we're playing the guessing game, I might as well ask another question. What do you guys think this is? It's not slingshot.
Halibut.
Halibut hook? Who said that? Oh, you got it right away.
I was told a few minutes ago by the other guy.
Cheat.
Cheat sheet.
Okay. You guys will know this, and if you do, I'm going to be a little upset. But, wait, shucks, I lost my train of thought. Okay, what do you guys think this was for? Well, designs on it. Anyone?
Like beat.
To attract the halibut.
Oh,
Yeah, so they use 2 different types of wood on this. One is a denser and one is a lighter, so it floats a certain way. And this is designed to only be able to catch 70 to 80 pound halibuts because the bigger halibuts are usually mothers.
wow.
And they were super smart people, the Clinton people. So they didn't want to affect the population. They had a concept of that even then. And a lot of other tribes and stuff like that did not. This is a paddle. As you can see, it has form, line, and art. Art wasn't always just for art's sake for the Clinton people. This is a very specific and rules you have to follow when doing form, line, art. This is a raven, and it's done in such a specific way. And it's shown to represent your clan. So whenever you go out on a journey, you have a paddle that shows your clan. Here's another one. This is a eagle bear. see the eagle, you can see the bear. Really awesome. I forget what that clan is called. I'd have to ask a friend, but seems to remember I showed you the coastal brown bear school.
Brown bear school.
Awesome. You guys want some photo of it? I'll try to get out a photo frame. Everyone get their photos up? Pretty awesome thing. So, since I've showed you guys all of my cool stuff, you guys have any questions about this town, about Huna, Icy Strait, our culture, anything off the top of your head?
So all the tribes are part of one people, or
So kind of, yeah. It really depends. So there's 3 main tribes in Southeast Alaska: Tlingit, Tsimshian, and Haida. I'm all 3 of them. I have lots of learning. But I just tell people I'm Tlingit because I grew up in the Tlingit culture. I don't know enough about the other ones. So I really answer people's questions. But the Tlingit people have multiple different clans. So there's Chungakati, Thunderbird, Kagwantan, Eagle. So there's multiple other ones.
Yes.
There's
So
a plethora of other ones. I'm Taquanati, Raven Sea Lion. My father's Hunapati, Raven Toho. My grandfather's Kagwantan, Eagle. They range, there's so many. So it's usually a raven or an eagle, something. So yeah.
So
It's a
you
little bit
you
hard
have
to
your own
explain.
language?
Yes, the Tlingit.
Okay.
Tlingit is a language. It's actually, I'm pretty sure, the 4th hardest language you've ever learned. It has a really hard, you have to use your throat a lot to speak it. It's a lot of throat speaking. It took me years to be able to say a few words. It's a really challenging, really beautiful language.
Can you get here by car, by bus, or only ship or air?
So we do, in our town, we can use cars, but we can't get here by cars.
Oh,
We can get here by boat or seaplane.
oh,
Or bush boat as well.
From
Okay.
where?
anywhere. Oh, giống như đằng kia rồi.
Yeah.
Pero đó.
2003. We started our operations in 2004. The theater was started by a local elder named Phil Wilson. He passed away 4.5 years ago. But it's our honor to continue on in this legacy and tell you these stories and sing you these songs that he used to tell us when we were children. A time-honored tradition from Bill. He loved to hire local people, local actors and performers, and people that are part of song and dance groups. He also prioritized hiring students that didn't have opportunities to work elsewhere. That's something we continue to do every single season. Every year, now that I'm overseeing this department, I hire as many students and local performers and song and performers as I can. So as they come out, you'll see we've got quite a few high schoolers with here. They're continuing on the legacy of this theater here. They're very happy to show you these songs. So we're just waiting a couple more seconds. I know it's been a long way, I apologize, but we're going to get started in just a minute here.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So the dance that we're going to see, which is really with the gentleman that you named, he came up with that choreography. Can you say that?
The choreography is a strong word like a dancing. It's more of a, if you've seen like a Polynesian haka, right? It's not necessarily a choreographed movement, but a set of common movements that you do in a repetitive motion. That's something that you'll see here in this song. Choreography is not a very accurate term, but the songs are owned by and shared by specific song owners that are members of each different clan. We'll hear the name of the song is like either Shalabuakan or Captain Grant or something like that. That's owned by that person. They let us share it with us. Just let him in. Just let him in and close the doors. Like he said.
Excuse me, is photography and video allowed?
They'll go over that in the beginning.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's time at the end where we can take photos, but we ask that there are no videos taken. Bob is going to be your narrator today. Bob is not indigenous to this area like a lot of our performers are, but Tlingit, as you'll learn in a minute here, is very inclusive people. We welcome him in. He dove head first into our culture and our songs and our dance, so we welcome him in as one of our own.
means the people. We have existed since time before memory, since the beginning of all things. We are people of the forest, and people of the sea. We range as far south as Ketchikan, and as far north as Yucatan, with relatives spanning much, much further. The Tlingit nation is comprised of two groups. We have the ravens, and we have the eagles. Each Tlingit is either a raven or an eagle. Within those two categories, we have specific families or clans that would be associated with a specific clan house, much like the structure that you're in today, large spruce plank structures. They would live communally through the winter months together. Our families are identified by crests or emblems of sea and land creatures, which feature into our important clan stories. And these stories were passed down orally in our tradition. We didn't have written language until after the 1970s. So permission to tell these stories are sought directly from clan to clan family, and we have permission to tell those stories and sing these songs for you today. But because they are considered sacred, we ask that you refrain from taking pictures or videos until after the show is over. We'll save time for this. Please and thank you. No one knows just how the story of the White Raven begins. So we begin at a place that we do know. That old trickster raven was walking along the beach one day. The sky was dark and showed no lights. On one of his many journeys, Raven had heard of an everlasting spring of water. Water guarded by a man that would not share with anyone. This man's name was Ganak. Ganak always slept right on top of his well, keeping it protected and guarded. And he lived very far out in the middle of the ocean. So even if you could get to him, he simply would not share. Well, Raven flew out to Ketchikan, the island where Ganak lived, to try to get that water source from him. But he knew he was going to have to come out with a pretty good plan. So, as he approached Ganak's cabin, Raven transformed himself into Ganak's brother-in-law.
What's in your tea?
My brother-in-law, how are you? Said Raven. I'm going to have to stay with you tonight. I have nowhere else to go. Ganak was thrilled. And so they went to bed. Raven could hear Ganak sleeping very soundly. And Raven needed for him to come off of his spring so that he could get to the water source. and he didn't even trust his brother-in-law with it. So Raven decided to go outside and pick up a bunch of dog manure. He carried it inside, and very quietly, while Ganuk slept, he sprinkled it on Ganuk and on his bedding. And then when morning came, Raven began to shake Ganuk. Wake up, brother-in-law. You have made a mess of yourself. You need to go outside and clean yourself up. Embarrassed and confused, Ganuk grabbed his clothing and blankets and headed for the door. Nervous to leave his well behind, but unwilling to taint his water with this mess. So while Ganuk was outside and he was cleaning himself and his bedding off, Raven transformed back into his true self and began drinking from the spring. And he drank, and he drank, and he drank. And Raven had almost had enough when Ganuk comes back into the cabin. And as Raven tried to escape through the smoke hole, Ganuk shouts, "Spear to the smoke hole! Capture him! Don't let him get away!" The spirits of Ganuk's house had indeed captured Raven, and he could not get away. And for many nights, Ganuk kept a fire going with lots of pitch wood, creating thick black smoke in the cabin. Finally, after many days struggling to get free, Raven breaks free, stained from the smoke of the fire, but still holding onto the precious water. As you remember, Raven was white before this, but because of Ganuk's fire and that thick smoke is why we see Raven's feathers the dark color that they are today. And using the water that he had spit out, or that he had stolen rather, Raven spit out what would form the Nas River, the Stikine River, the Taku River, the Chilkat, and the Alsite. And all the small drops that fell from his beak formed the streams and rivers that we know today. The salmon used to spawn very far out in the ocean. There was no need for them to come ashore. Ganuk had all the fresh water they needed. But now that Raven had dispersed the water once more, the salmon could now spawn closer to the shore and in the rivers and streams. Next, Raven used a powerful devilfish or an octopus stick. And he moved the salmon houses from far out in the ocean to the streams and rivers, where now they can produce more food for the people of the forest. Now at this time, there was still no light in the world, but Raven had heard of a man, an old man, at the headwaters of the Nas River. He lived there with his beautiful daughter. Nashakaku was his name, and he kept the stars, the moon, and the sun away from everyone in little boxes hidden from the world. So Raven traveled to the heads of the Nas River, attempting to get to those magical boxes of light. Raven seen his perfect opportunity when he seen Nashakaku's daughter down by the river gathering and drinking water. Raven turned his spirit into a hemlock needle, and he dropped into the water. And as the needle floated down the river, the daughter, unknowingly, scoops it up and drinks it down. And in the coming weeks, the daughter became pregnant. When it was time to give birth, following Tlingit customs, they dug a hole for the baby to be born into, and they lined that hole with the fanciest furs and pelts of the land. But Raven would not be born on such fancy things. No. So grandfather asked his daughter, "Well, what should we put in there then? Would you prefer moss?" And the mother could tell that this pleased the unborn Raven, and so they replaced the furs and pelts with moss, and baby Raven was born. Baby Raven was greatly loved by his family, especially by his grandfather. As the child grew, so did grandfather's love. And Raven would spend many, many days crying and begging for grandfather's treasures, jumping and rolling around and crying for the box containing the stars. Though grandfather loved his stars, he loved his grandson even more. And it seemed to be the only thing to keep his grandson from crying. And he tells his daughter, "Give my grandson what he wants. Give him the box containing the stars." Baby Raven took the box and quickly began to play with it. Grandfather was very nervous to see his grandson with one of his great treasures. So he watched him very closely. But when no one was looking and everyone's back was turned, Raven knew that this was his chance, and he reached in the box and he grabbed the stars and he threw them up through the smoke hole. The stars flew up out of the house, rising higher and higher and spreading like laughter. "Oh, my grandson, what have you done? You have cost me one of my great treasures," cried Uncle Wu as he looked up into the stars, now lighting up the sky. Raven was quite proud of the stars in the sky, but he was going to have to keep trying for the other two magical boxes of lights. And after some time had passed, Nashak Angu had gotten over his sorrows for losing his stars. Although he was mad at first, he loved his grandson much too much to stay angry. And then, when Raven knew that he was back inside his grandfather's good graces, he began crying around again for the box containing the moon. As hesitant as Nashak Angu was to give his grandson another one of his treasures, it seemed to be the only thing to keep him from crying. So eventually one day, grandfather caved and said, "Give my grandchild what he wants. Give him a box containing the moon." Raven grabbed the box and quickly stopped crying. Excited, he immediately began playing with the box. Learning their lesson from last time, they refused to take their eyes off of Raven, fearing that he would accidentally release another one of their great treasures. After a few moments, Raven sat the box down, opened it up, and took the moon out, bouncing and rolling the ball around. He was having such a great new time with his new favorite toy. However, watching on in horror, grandfather shouts, "Escany!" The loud shout from grandfather startled his grandson, causing him to lose focus in such a way that the moon gets away from him, bouncing higher and higher out through the smoke hole and into the sky. "Oh, what have you done? You have cost me another one of my great treasures," cried Nashakutu as he looks up at his moon in the sky. And there was certainly more light to the sky at this point, but Raven needed to get to the box containing the daylight as well. And he was unsure that he could convince the old man to give him another box of his treasures. So he devised his most clever plan yet. While everyone was sleeping, he grabbed the box and ran out the door. Hearing the door slam on the way out, Nashak Angu awoke to see that his last box was indeed missing. "Oh, trickster Raven has gotten all of my treasures," cried Nashaku, realizing only now what a fool he had been. Our story with Raven is coming to a close. He has but one thing left to do. He has to release the daylight of the people. And he plans on doing so in a large fishing community called Fishermen of the Night. So Raven comes up on a town and he's about to get something to eat and maybe some rest. He comes across the river that he needs to cross, and he sees the fishermen and says to them, "Hey, fishermen of the night, won't you help me cross this river?" The fishermen ignored him. So Raven responded, "If you do not come over here and help me, I will break daylight upon you." "You have daylight? The man that heads to the North River has daylight. Is that where you've come from?" Raven answered by quickly opening up the box, casting a light so bright that it threw the fishermen about, and quickly closed fishermen began yelling at Raven, making loud voices and calling him all kinds of names. Angry, Raven released the daylight completely, and the sun rose up into the sky. Rising higher and higher, the light grew and spread, and those who wore furs transformed back into the creatures that they were dressed like, scurrying off into the forest or flying high out of the ocean. And for those of us that were left, well, we've seen the world clearly for the first time. This, my friends, is the story of Raven and how he created the world that we live in. Gonachish, Hatiyat. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Down and dance with us.
Men, women, children, old, young, we would love to have you down here and dance with us.
Or drums. We have tons of drums.
For those of you that would just like to sit and see some drum, I got drums for this.
I'm going to start kicking people out to come dance. Come on down here.
Any drummers over this way?
How about you guys? Guys want to come down and dance?
Drum. I see some drummers down this way. I'm going to get some more drums.
Yeah.
Come down.
Anybody do it without a mallet? I got one more drum.
Cassie, do you want to dance?
The first song we're going to do is called Gay Peach. Hope you enjoy it.
On the fast drum.
We're going to do K2 first, actually. And then we'll do K.
Starts off fast, then it slows down.
The first one doesn't, the second.
Oh, so long.
I thought the same thing. We don't have to swing.
Hey!
We apologize for the delay that happened with this show, but thank you all so much for being here. You can leave your drums right on back. We'll be up here taking pictures if you'd like to. Safe travels, everybody.
That's all. Đưa mẹ cái túi. Hai cái đó là có được rồi.
Yeah, up there, departure. Up there. You need to take
Get off. This one, the red one.
The ship started to move out of IC Strait Point to go to Ketchikan. Bye-bye, Israel, 9 o'clock. Well, they were eating outside. The ship leaving the port of IC Strait Point. Go to Ketchikan. The ship moving toward Juneau, capital of Alaska. Now it's in ship go to
what we gather that division is going deeper and deeper. Iran has witnessed massive protests only 2 years ago against the regime. It was a mass protest, it was widespread, and people were, especially youths and women, participated in that protest, asking their rights, the freedom and social freedom mainly, and also some wanted the end of this regime. But we cannot ignore that this regime still has its own roots and its own supporters. How the percentage is not really clear, but the issue is that the armed forces, majority of armed forces are connected to the regime, and they are still supporting the regime because they receive the power from the regime. But people inside, right now, I think the youths, they want new life, so yes. That can tell you that probably the majority of youths don't want this regime.
Frank, I've got a question from Rosina, who asks how close is Iran to having a nuclear weapon? But before you actually answer that, I just want to take viewers through a few of what Benjamin Netanyahu has said over the years, because last week on the 12th of June he said if not stopped, Iran could have a nuclear weapon in a very short time, within a year or maybe a few months. That's what he said last week. In 2018 he said Iran has the wherewithal to do it very quickly. In 2015 he said they are weeks away from having an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs. In 2012 he said they're close, 6 months away from having enough enriched uranium to have an atomic bomb. In 2006 Iran is gearing up to having 25 atomic bombs a year. In 1996 Netanyahu told US lawmakers, ladies and gentlemen, time is running out. And in 1995 he said Iran is capable of creating nuclear bombs between 3 and 5 years. So that arches over nearly 3 decades. So Frank, what is the answer to that question? How close is Iran?
Okay, so first of all, I think let's just get this out on the table. Iran says they have no military, their intentions are entirely peaceful, that their nuclear program is forced. Concluded in 2015, also called the Vienna Nuclear Deal, which, in return for the partial lifting of sanctions on Iran, it put in place some very strict inspections by UN nuclear inspectors inside Iran, and Donald Trump pulled the US out of it. Iran waited a year and then said, okay, you know what, if they're not going to take part, then nor are we. So they broke a lot of the protocols. Now, very importantly, about a week ago, the IAEA, that's the UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, pronounced that Iran was in breach of its non-proliferation obligations. That is not the same as saying they are about to produce a nuclear weapon.
Mikey, let me bring you back in, and a lot of questions still to get through, so in terms of answers, let's try and keep them condensed. A really quick one here from Asher, who says, will the US's entry, if they enter this conflict, not provoke Iran to strike US targets?
Yeah, Asher, there's certainly risk. I assess risk as capability versus intent and probability versus consequence. And it's a graduated and proportionate.
Now it's 7:30 a.m. in the morning of June 18, 2025. The ship approaching Ketchikan in Alaska, and we arrived at 9 a.m. and the ship will leave at 4 p.m. Go to Vancouver, last stop. Ship arrived at Ketchikan in Alaska, now 8:30 a.m.
Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world. She took the midnight control. She took the midnight dreams, going anywhere.
Bà này giống như những con phim.
It is down about 30 feet. It's not even halfway yet, but it'll get down there today. It's right down the right front. All right, now there's 11 islands around this one. So when I talk about the islands, I'm talking about one. I'm talking about the one island, all of them together. This one is the one that has the hospital, the grocery stores, the city hall. So this is like the capital of all the little islands around it. Now, this little island does not have a road that goes around it. You go up the same way that bus is going to the left. You go up, when you get to the end, you make a U-turn, you come back down. When you get to the other side, you make a U-turn, you come back. This is the only way up and down on this island. You see a lot of little roads on the side. Do not go more than a quarter mile. That's it. Whatever you see up there, you don't see much. You don't see any houses or any roads or anything like that because nobody lives up in the mountain. That is, that's what I heard was a blah 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 part. And I don't know what the word is, so we're gonna use village for my story. And since you guys aren't gonna see them, well, village it is. When we got to the village, we got to see where they live. I told
an eagle on the right hand side. This eagle is named Eagle Butt or Mooning Eagle. We're going to be heading over to Waterside real quick. I got a few more people to pick up and then we will start our tour. They're going to put me behind all these buses, so you're going to need to walk them a little bit. That's what I'm trying to say. The city as we drive by it. I'll try not to hit all the patients that want to come in front of me right now. After we're done with Potlatch, I will be going to Ward Cove to drop people off, and then we'll be coming back down into town and dropping people off as well. A bunch of guys, tight shirts, they're showing their prowess with the logs and how fast they can cut them down. But ladies, I am not giving you any singles, that's up to you. There's a, there we go. See, we got to breaking the ice now. We got the Alaskan. Done. On your left-hand side is the local electrical union, the IBEW. No, I am that generation that saw Final Destination, and even when it's just a few planks, it makes me nervous. Got a truck with some wood in front of me. You don't feed the bears. If they're out there, you guys get a nice viewing, and we ask that you just watch quietly and enjoy what's happening around you. Again, please don't scream. Also, do not run. That can trigger a predatory response. They can run up to 35 miles per hour, so you're not going to outrun them. And I don't want you kneecapping your neighbor or the tour guide. We want to keep them. Now, they mate around June and July, so, you know, you're right in the peak season. And it's also salmon season.
Salmon season.
Now, when they mate, she'll get pregnant. She'll be pregnant for about 7 months. But her embryos will not start to actually develop until she goes into hibernation. Most cubs are born between January and February. She can have anywhere from 1 to 4 cubs. They average 2. I have seen YouTube videos of these poor bears, mama bears that have 4, and they look exhausted. Now she'll stay in the den a little bit longer than the single bears. They're born about 1 pound, blind and hairless. They'll gain about 30 pounds that first month. And then after that she'll stay longer. She'll keep her cubs for about 2 years. However, it's not unusual if there's a male bear around that he might attack the bear cubs because he's trying to put her back in heat. She will not go into heat if she has her cubs. Hence the defensiveness of a mama bear. Now, I like to say that Ketchikan does not have an amusement park, and so they turned this road into their own personal roller coaster ride. Now, I've seen several of the black bears out here, but I've also had a bear encounter. We live very close to where you guys are going to be doing your bear viewing, and I was leaving my trailer so I could do my laundry. There's 3 steps to go out of this trailer, and I was looking down because I didn't want to trip over my feet. I tend to do that. I also didn't look up immediately. I walked a few paces before I looked up, and I saw a black bear about the distance of a bus length, so about the distance of this bus. And he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. I wasn't scared. I was kind of startled to see him, but I wasn't like terrified or anything. And I guess this is the universal truth with bears, because I just said, bear, bear, bear. And he looked at me like, oh, I guess it's time for you to go back in the woods. And he turned around and walked back. And then I just kind of watched and made sure he didn't come back out when I was trying to go do my laundry. Now we are currently going to be in low tide. During high tide, we get lucky enough normally to see our harbor snails. And they can dive down for about 1,500 feet. That is not how deep it is out here. It only gets to be about 20 feet. And they can hold their breath for about 30 minutes. I like to call them the puppy dogs of the sea. You'll usually have one who pops his head up, and then he'll pop his head down, and another will pop their head up. And this kind of goes back and forth. It's like whack-a-mole. There's a fish hatchery out there. You will not be able to go on it. It's private property. But you can see the pipe sometimes from a distance, depending on where you're standing. And this fish hatchery, they will release fish at different locations depending on the need and where they're leaving the fish to have the best chance of survival.
Yeah.
And now salmon, they will go back out to the ocean for about 3 to 5 years. Assuming they don't get eaten or fished up, they will come back to where they were born. Which is another reason why it's a good bear viewing area, because they're coming back over here. There's a bald eagle in front of us going to the left. Let's see if he's still there when I come around the corner. And he's just going to circle around. I don't know if you'll be able to see him when we get him around. He's heading that way. Now we have a ton of these bushes called salmonberry bushes. They used to have pink flowers on them. Most of the bushes no longer have those pink flowers because they're starting to turn into berries. Some areas the berries are starting to form, some of them haven't.
There you go.
Ngừng lại đi mẹ sáng.
Thôi 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 thôi.
Đây là dính chấm cái đất những bọt đất để mưa mà nó dơ.
What you're going to see here, you're going to see two different types of eagles. You know why you're going to see two different types of eagles?
Young.
One's young and one's an adult.
That's good guy.
And now I see it.
They can fully form about 6 months in. So it's kind of hard to tell how old they are. A fully mature eagle has their white head, right, their yellow beak. That comes in much later. So you're talking about like 4 or 5 years old, right? So all the eagles that you see here that are going to be juveniles are going to be below that age. So a fully formed juvenile, they can have up to a 7-foot wingspan, 7.5-foot wingspan, right? If they're a male. Females can get a little bit bigger, so they're anywhere between 7 and 8 feet. So it's a massive wingspan. The female ones are going to be bigger, so if you do see two eagles flying side by side, it's a rare event because they're just leaving. They're mating right now, so they started mating in January to March. And so when they have eggs, right, all their hatchlings, those eagles are now starting to grow up. So now we're entering this 4 to 5 month period where the eagles are starting to leave their nest. So when you do see two eagles together, you can kind of tell which one's bigger. The female one's going to be anywhere between 9 and 14 pounds, sometimes 15. And then the male one's a little bit smaller, so he's like 8 and 9 pounds, somewhere in there. Coming down on this wildlife area. So we got an eagle directly across from us.
Oh yeah, I see it.
I see it.
So if we're patient enough, right, a lot of times they'll come over here and they'll be flying above. Now, about 20 minutes ago, I saw two salmon in the creek. We're still a little too early, but they're now starting to come in, more and more, the sightings at least. So we got this eagle. Oh, where'd he go? He just took off, didn't he? Lost him.
It's right there.
Where's this?
You gonna move?
Right in front of me. Eagle. See now you got a white head.
There's a juvenile eagle sitting over here. It's really hard to see though. He's hanging out on this log. There's not really a trail that goes through here.
Dạ, thấy một con nữa nè, nó đậu trên cây này xí.
Thì là thấy là thế.
Cái con này thì thường thôi.
Nữa.
You can kind of see him if you come around. Yeah, he's hanging out over there. So as the salmon are coming, you want to see them? So if you see him right here real careful, you can bend down. He's hanging out on that washed up stump.
So the salmon go up this way?
We're going to walk around to the other bridge and you'll be able to see them. Sometimes you get howl salmon spawn.
No.
So you have a male and a female one. The female one is trying to get out to this fresh water where the water is nice and calm, right? There's some sand and some rocks. What the female does is she takes her tail and actually digs out like a little hole, right? She digs out a little salmon nest, as they nicknamed it. And then the female comes over, lays her eggs, and then the male goes over there and fertilizes it right away. And then she buries it, right? So those eggs will stay there sometimes up to several months before they're released. And then once those fish start developing, right, they'll actually stay within the yolk, right, for a few more weeks and stuff like that until they're actually little fish and actually will swim out. So they're really, really, really tiny. So the male and female salmon are looking to come up in here.
right? And all the salmon return to the place of birth. So what we see is a salmon hatchery, right? So we have these salmon hatchery salmon, right? And they cut a little fin off the back when they get so big. That way they can identify them. And then you have these natural salmon up here. So right now we have the king salmon. So the king salmon are just now starting to run. They can be up to 50 pounds. So right now the fishermen have been pulling out, I think like 25 pounders. I saw one earlier that was like 15 pounds. So they're now starting to go into this fresh water. It's still a little too early for them, but every once in a while, like they're starting to come up, especially seals. So earlier there were some fishermen like fishing, and the seal actually stole the salmon off his hook. So there's a lot of competition for salmon right now. Let's go back to the bridge. Yes, actually they do. So what's been explained to me is that there's a nickname they like zombify, right? They said, oh yeah, they're kind of zombies because they're all kind of, some of them, here the salmon aren't going to be really beat up. There's not a lot of rocks. It's very easy to get up in these creeks. But other parts of the island where their lakes are 6 miles in, the salmon are going up, they can even jump up to 12 feet in the air, right? And jumping up in these upper parts. 6 miles in, the salmon get beat up, there's bones sticking out, right? Their eyes are kind of like, you know, all mangled and stuff like that. And then other animals will try to take bites out of them, right? So a lot of them, like bears will miss and like they'll take a chunk out of them, but they're still alive. These salmon here are probably in the best condition until the bears get them.
So where do the salmon, after they've deposited their little ones, where do they go to die?
Just here in the creeks?
They do.
If they do make it to the ocean, right, they start breaking down really rapidly. So after they spawn, right, their bodies pretty much like give up, they're drained of energy, right? They've been fighting to get back to the place of birth, like 1 to 2 years. They make a huge journey around the Pacific and they come all the way here, you know, just to like kind of like mate again, right, and then lay some eggs. So females can lay up to 10,000 eggs, so that's a lot of eggs, right? And that's just one.
Look.
Walk out there, Mike. Go out there and catch some salmon with our bare hands.
Yeah, I agree.
So you'll be able to see the baby falls on the right. Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to. I am. It's starting to rain again. That's cool. Oh, now the car moves. That would have been so much easier if the car had already left. All right. Please do not push and shove. Take turns up there. But there is a little platform. If there are rocks, use your